up and jump. Come on now. Hi and welcome to Getting Into Raw Cooking with Zane. In this episode we're going to make spicy stir fry all raw. I'm really excited about this one because it's going to show you some great features of your 9900 or any of your Optimum series blenders. We're going to start out by making rice. Now, raw rice doesn't sound very good, but in this way, it's very tasty. We'll start with some parsnips. Parsnips are great for you. Parsnips are high in vitamin C, they've got tons of fibre, and they're also high in folic acid, so an excellent veggie for you. Now, because we're going to dry chop in the blender, we're going to make sure that we have small bite-sized pieces of our parsnip to throw in. We're only going to put in a small amount at a time. So they need to be bite-sized pieces, and you'll see why in just a minute. Now, if you're fully blending a hard ingredient like this, you don't need to chop them up very much at all, just big enough to fit in. But because we're actually going to make a rice texture or a food processing kind of function using your blender, we do need to chop in this case. I pop them in the bottom of the blender. We'll process in small batches so it's quick and easy. We simply put the lid on the food processor and we use the pulse function on the blender. So just over at the side here, pull it down and pulse. You only need to do that a few times just to get that nice rice texture in the bottom. You'll see there, it's small little rice-sized pieces that we have. So we tip them straight into our bowl. Scrape out any excess. We're going to do the same again until we have about 2 cups of parsnip. Okay, once you've done your parsnip and you've got a nice bowl full of about 2 cups, the next ingredient is some carrots. Now the recipe says 2 carrots, but you can see these ones are quite small, and I'm just going to use the carrots the way they are. There we go. Carrots have got high vitamin A in them, just great for your vision. Now you need to again chop them into small bite-sized pieces so that we can use the Optimum blender in place of a food processor. Pop them straight in the bottom of the blender, put the lid on with the lid plug in place and pulse again. All done. Nice, easily, finely diced carrot. Next we're going to crush some nuts using the blender and the pulse function again. We need a half a cup of pine nuts for this particular recipe. So you pop your pine nuts into the cup and then straight into your blender. Try and do it without spilling as many as I did. So I've got my half a cup of pine nuts in the blender, and all I need to do is put the lid on, lid plug in place. Remember, make sure it's secure, and pulse a few times. Great. I've got that finely chopped up. See how quick and easy it is with the Optimum blender? Finely chopped up pine nuts in the bottom of the blender jug. Now if you don't want to use pine nuts, you can replace these with cashew nuts or leave them out altogether, but they really do help with that sticky, creamy texture of the rice. So I'd highly recommend trying it at least once. Now in our bowl we have parsnip, carrot and the pine nuts, all processed using the Optimum blender. We're going to use a knife now to roughly chop up a little bit of broccoli, about 3/4 of a cup, and about a half a cup of mushrooms. Broccoli is a cruciferous vegetable. It can be a bit hard on the digestive tract when you eat it raw. So one great suggestion is that if you have this trouble, or if you have IBS, that you soak or massage your broccoli with olive oil and let it sit for about half an hour before eating it. We're not going to do that today, but you absolutely can. All you do is put the broccoli in a bowl, rub it with olive oil, let it sit for half an hour. It will start to digest a little bit, and when you eat it, it's going to be better on your digestive tract. Chopped up broccoli goes straight in the bowl, and the last ingredient is some mushrooms. Mushrooms are absolutely fantastic for you. Lots of different types available. Just chop up whichever one that you like best. I like to use these little button mushrooms with their mild flavour in this kind of recipe. Just one more. Approximately a half a cup. we have it, all the base ingredients. We have our parsnip rice, our other ingredients in there, and in a moment we're going to toss them together. But before we do, I'm going to rinse the blender and we're going to make a beautiful dressing for this particular stir fry. Now it's time to make the dressing for our stir fry. So we're going to use some basic ingredients that are in most cupboards. About a half a cup, or actually sorry, a quarter of a cup of olive oil. In the blender jug. That'll help to get things going in there. Next we're going to add a third of a cup of sun-dried tomatoes. We're going to add chilli. Now it's up to you how much. You could use a teaspoon of dried chilli or you can use a fresh chilli. I'm just going to chop the whole end off and throw it in. Now, 1.5 teaspoons of curry powder. Now you might like to leave the curry powder out of this recipe and adjust it. You could put lemongrass and lime juice instead. So have a feel free to play around with these ingredients. You can adjust this to taste. A tablespoon of namashoyo or tamari, which is my preference, is the next ingredient. Remember, tamari is not raw, but it's a great gluten-free soy alternative. And a little bit of sweetness. Again, up to you. You can leave this one out altogether, but I quite like it. I'm going to add just about half a tablespoon of the coconut nectar to this particular mixture. Once all the ingredients are in the blender jug, securely attach the lid. Lid plug in place. You won't need a tamper for this one. And then turn the jug on. Once you've got the ingredients going, you can turn it up. Remember, your Optimum 9900 is a really high-powered blender, so you don't need to use it on full speed all the time. You can blend a mixture like this until it's combined at about speed 1 to 2, so it's very easy. It's good, but I think it needs a little bit of salt, pepper, and a touch of lime juice. Remember, adjust to taste when you're cooking. Lime's a great source of vitamin C. It's such a great source of flavour. It adds acidity to your cooking, and you need a balance in your cooking between sweetness and acidity and saltiness, all the legs of the table. And a little bit of pepper. Lid back on. And one last blend. That's a great thing in the versatility about a blender like this. You can use the small amounts in there on the low speeds. Make tasty, very tasty sauces. So to finish off, all you need to do is mix the sauce with the rice and vegetables until it's well combined. Once the sauce is in, mix it well. You'll see that that parsnip rice gets a nice pink tinge from the tomatoes. You can use sun-dried tomatoes packed in oil, or you can use completely dried sun-dried tomatoes, but you need to soak those ones first for about 10 to 15 minutes in warm water to make sure that they're not too dry in the blender when you're making the sauce. Lastly, you just serve. To serve, I recommend that you grab a small round bowl and then fill the bowl all the way up with the rice mix. You can do that using a spoon or tongs, however you prefer. Fill it all the way to the top and press it in firmly to the bowl. You might have to adjust the little bits of broccoli or mushroom because they're a bit larger. Once it's in all of the way, to get a really nice look to your serving, pop it on a plate and tap it out at the end. Finish off with a little bit of broccoli, piece of mushroom and a little wedge of lime juice. Often when people think of blender recipes, they think of smoothies and hot soups or even cold soups, but this is a great way of using a blender instead of a food processor to make an absolutely delicious meal. It looks great, it tastes great, and it's so simple. If you'd like to know more about the Optimum range of blenders, have a look in the details below, and you can click through to your local Fruitie website and order yours today. Also, if you enjoyed this recipe and you'd like to know more, please feel free to subscribe to the FroothieTV channel. In making this recipe, I've chosen to use the optional 6-blade jug with the 9900 blender. So the 9900 blender comes standard with a 4-blade jug. We've chosen the 6-blade jug, which I find is great for small amounts like this. Ciao for now. Forget what's next. Oh, you'll see that steam comes out. Look at that. Warm soup straight from the blender. Let's serve it up.